the 70s, that the only way to be a true feminist was to have women-only relationships and only have relationships with women. And, and this led to, and to separate from the establishment, to form, a separate sort of society. And that was in some ways very easy for the people who were involved in this anti-feminist backlash in the 70s to sort of point to that and say, see, they're all crazy and they hate men. And, that was just a very small slice of what was happening and what their issues were. And in fact, most feminists didn't self-identify as women. So to say that there's second waves categorized by one sort of thing is to misunderstand the movement entirely. But it also works in favor of sort of this neoliberal sort of agenda as this, the success of the anti-feminist backlash of the 70s. It's the reason why, one of the reasons why we don't have an ERA amendment for the Constitution. Or national funded child care. Nixon created that law, and then,
Sure. So, it's, there are a lot of misconceptions, and there are reasons why they exist and perpetuate.
Professor Harwood?
So I would probably repeat a lot about the misconceptions. So I'll talk a little more about some of the reasons I think it's important. And yes, like everyone said, obviously it's still important. But I think part of the reason is that people just, because we can come and wear pants and we have these things that aren't so in our face, we take it for granted, but yet and forget that there are still differences, that women are still paid less for doing the same work, that women are still expected, in a sense, to be this superwoman. I remember, that is one of the things in a psychology perspective, we talk about that sometimes, that women are expected to do it all, right? That whole idea of you can do it all, you can do it, you can have a job, you can, but then still be able to come home and take care of the house and take care of the kids and still do the cleaning. The cleaning is that expectation's still lying there, and that's that sort of superwoman thing, and then that feeling of not living up to a standard if you don't meet that, and I think that is something that needs to be dealt with as well. So I think that what makes it important today is that we set these standards that are impossible, and yes, okay, certain rights are there, but then that general standard is still being set that is not something someone can successfully live by. And so I think feminism has to turn and create a world where people can choose and have the freedom to feel that whatever works for them works, and that's okay.
Mr. DeMarco?
I'll be very brief. Is feminism important today? Yes. What are common misconceptions? Hillary Clinton is a feminist.
Professor Leiden?
Thanks for coming back to me, George. So I was thinking about this, especially why do those misconceptions continue to exist? And I think part of the misconceptions existing is if you need to have a liberating movement, it means there's oppressors. And if there are people in power, they want to stay in power. So whatever reason they can give to hang on to their power and to keep the oppressed people oppressed, they're going to use. So if it's accurate understanding and then you misrepresent that, or you paint the people that you're oppressing in using a certain brush to delegitimize them, that's all going to be part of it. It serves the anti-feminist movement to perpetuate misconceptions like this.
And now we're going to open up the discussion to the audience. If the audience has any questions, feel free to just raise your hands and ask. We'll start over there.
I'm so pleased that the students have organized the panel. It's just wonderful that we're talking about feminism and the fact that it is still an F word. What I wanted to tag along was Professor Leiden has said that it's really the issue of power. I frankly don't think that feminism is an F word because of any misconceptions. I think that it's clearly understood what women want. To me, it's like imagine a large megaphone. male-dominated society, as soon as a woman tries to come up as a leader who wants to speak for herself or experiment with relationship, that megaphone is yelling at her, stay down, you know. So I think it's very well understood that women just want more power, that they want more agency, you know, but they're not allowed because someone has to move over for someone else to have any amount of power. And even in the academia, you know, it was interesting to hear how different professions have a different gender breakdown. But in terms of promotion, even at the college, men tend to get promoted faster and more easily, and you know, because they have a family, you know. But it's supposed to be a meritocracy, right? And I'm supposed to be, I mean, I'm not complaining about myself, but you know, we women need to be paid for the work, not because we're not breadwinners. So I wanted to say that. I'm so happy. So it's just wonderful. Bravo to everybody.
Do the panelists have any comments in regards to that? All right. We can move on to the next question. Over there.
Hi, my name is Angie. I'd like to ask Professor DeMarco. It's very difficult to deny that rape culture exists, and violence against women is such a big issue. So my question is that advice on violence against women often focuses on how women can be safe, but why not taught to teach men how not to be violent? So we always intend to teach women how to be safe, but now intend to teach men how to be
I agree. I actually think the primacy has to be on the male parent. So women should know how to keep themselves safe, but I think, yeah, it is a problem. And I think rape is an interesting issue, and it's very controversial because it is being studied by evolutionary psychologists now and other evolutionary theorists, and there's a lot of theories out there. Sometimes when people put forward a theory about this, you know, they get a lot of flack for it. But I mean, you know, any kind of a moral system that we're going to develop here has to be based upon good science about things too. I mean, just to give you one quick example, look, men are more aggressive because we have more testosterone in our serum. That's just a simple thing. And by the way, also the reverse is you increase oxytocin in our system, that aggression goes away. So that's an interesting fact, and that can be used because then if you can find prompts that increase oxytocin, for example, right, that might be useful. But I think this is a question about sexuality. And I think if you're living in a patriarchy, a male-dominated society, I think that you are going to have this problem of men thinking that there is no problem on their side, the problem is on the other. And that has to stop. And I also think that what has contributed recently, and this, I have some ambivalent feelings about this because there's liberty issues involved. I think we have a serious problem with pornography. A serious problem with pornography. And I think it's doing harm. I think it's doing the standard harm we always thought of objectifying women, but I think it's also set up sexual expectations, especially on the part of men. And I also think we live in a culture where the gratuitous sex that is represented in a lot of pop literature, television, popular film is also sexist. So that's where the cultural critique has to come in, and that's where it has to be pointed out. And then, of course, art can help us with the liberation here and changing that.
I'd also like to expand that question to the rest of the panel, if you don't mind, if anyone else would like to answer it. No? All right, so next question. Good question.
This question's for everyone on the panel. You know, you're all very educated, successful people. And what advice do you have for young women pursuing higher education and successful careers?
Can you be more specific? You're asking sort of a broad question. You said pursuing successful careers.
Pursuing as a woman, you know, there's the whole glass ceiling concept and everything.
Oh, the glass ceiling. Well, I mean, I think that, you know, my general advice would be go for it. It's really that simple. There will be obstacles. The obstacles can be overcome. I think all of us at some level have experienced, all of the women and probably the male as well, have experienced some obstacles in terms of education. You know, sometimes we get sidetracked and we get distracted, families, lovers, whatever they may be. But that doesn't mean that you can't still continue to move towards whatever your goal is. You know, and again, society has certain expectations of us. We as individuals have to decide for ourselves what is best for us, and that should be your goal, and that's the goal you should be moving towards. Maybe you don't want a traditional, you know, mother, husband, child rearing kind of thing. That's your choice. And I think that everybody has to make his or her own decision and just pursue it. Success is going to come to you, and you may have to break down the barriers. You know, 10 years, 5 years from now, I don't know where you'll be, you don't know where you'll be, but face the challenges head on is my point. You know, and I think that's my advice to everyone. You just have to keep on being positive, trying to stay balanced in whatever way you work out your own sensibilities and level of balance, and pursue your goals.
The only way that we're going to get things changed is if women enter the various academic fields. So you've got to do it. If you feel it's a calling, you've got to do it. There will